Right guys, let me introduce you to my telescope. This is the Skywatcher 150 PDS and it is mounted on top of the EQ6R Pro. And this is the ASI 585mm Pro, and this is how it looks like on the telescope. As you can see, I am using an off-axis guider. This is the newly released SV Boni off-axis guider, and between the camera and the filter wheel I added this rotator. This whole setup here is adding a little bit of weight, so I was having balancing issues. So my solution to that was to add this counterweight over here. So now everything is balanced, but it did add a little bit of weight, the total weight on the mount. So I had to move the counterweights further out. But everything is tested, it's tracking perfectly, and that's it really. Looks like it's gonna be a perfectly clear night tonight, so let's get to imaging. Right guys, so I am in Nina right now. Everything is connected and there's a sequence loaded and running at the moment. I am shooting this object right here. This is part of the Sol Nebula. I will stop the sequence just to show you how the camera connects. Now I will have to disconnect the camera for a moment just to show you this. Right, so you come into the equipment, you choose camera, and then you come to this drop down option. And as you can see, the camera shows up here when it's connected. However, this is relatively new. A few months ago, the camera didn't show up here. So what you had to do to connect it was choose one of these two, then go to this gear icon and choose the camera from here. Of course, this is identical to the other option, but we are missing the USB limit here. But now we have a direct way to connect the camera like this, since Nina recognizes the camera. Who cares how the camera connects anyway? Does it make a difference? Well, maybe it does, because I noticed recently that ZWO changed the performance charts of this camera, and according to their website, the high conversion gain mode activates at gain 200. However, when I bought the camera, according to the manual, the high conversion gain mode was activated at gain 252. I was curious and I contacted ZWO and they replied to me. What they said is that they made changes to the high conversion gain mode and that these changes are applied through the SDK, not through a firmware change. Now, I have no idea what the SDK is, but through a quick search, I found out that it's basically the tool that allows Nina to control the camera. So there has been a Nina update a couple of months ago, and that's when I noticed that there was a direct way to connect the camera in Nina. So maybe through that update, they applied the changes to the camera's performance as well. Maybe you guys understand more about this than I do, so please let me know in the comments. I will perform an experiment and I will connect the camera both ways and then take bias frames with each one and see if there's any difference, and then I will show you the result. Okay, as promised, I am in Peaks Insight right now and I have two bias frames, one captured using the direct way of connecting the camera and one captured using the other way. So I already checked out these bias frames, and in one of them I found something really weird, some strange noise patterns. I think the sensor is defective, so I will do an auto stretch so you can see what I mean. What the Okay, jokes aside, I have 4 frames right here. The ones on the top are single frames and the ones below are stacked 100 frames of each way of connecting the camera. On the left is the direct way and on the right is the indirect. So let's stretch them and see what we have. Right, so if we look at the single frames, I see absolutely no difference. I don't know, hopefully through the YouTube algorithm you can see the differences. But let's zoom in a little bit. So to my eyes, they look exactly the same. If we compare the stacked frames next to each other, I don't know, it looks to me like the indirect way of connecting the camera has more pronounced vertical patterns, but the direct way is more clean. I don't know, what do you guys think? I will leave these files for you to download down in the description so you can check them out yourself, and please let me know in the comments. So here are my final thoughts about this sensor. First of all, I would like to say that this sensor is very forgiving in terms of tilt, back focus, and collimation. At first, when I was putting the camera together, I messed up the back focus and I was off by at least 20 millimeters. And still I couldn't see any coma in my images because of the small size of this sensor. What I really found challenging with this camera is that because I paired it with a 750mm telescope, I am a bit oversampled. So this means that I really have to pay attention to the seeing conditions if I really want to get a sharp image. However, nowadays, with all these processing tools we have like Blur Exterminator, you can work around this problem. If you're planning to use this camera with a shorter focal length, then you have no issue. A big thanks to those of you who made it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. And finally, I would like to share a few pictures I took with this camera. Until next time, clear skies.